Father said that he wants to call into the program momentarily. I welcome him, and I will stop what I'm doing when he does come on. Everyone knows that Reverend Jackson has Parkinson's, but he too is motivated by the historicity, if you will, of this moment. And so to go back 60 years, March 11th, 1965, that's when I was born. James Orange had been teaching young African Americans in Marion, Alabama, the importance of voter registration. And he was jailed on February 18th, 1865. And on that same date, a rumor went around Marion, Alabama that he was going to be killed or lynched. Jimmy Lee Jackson's mother came to a church and they prayed about it. They surrounded the local jail to keep James Orange from being killed on that day. Jimmy Lee Jackson came and he went in the church to protect his mother. They ran to a restaurant across the street and Jimmy Lee Jackson got shot on February 18th and he died on February 26th. James Luther Bevel called for a march from Selma to Montgomery over the right to vote. On March 7th, 1965, SNCC Chairman John Lewis and SCLC Chairman Hosea Williams led African Americans across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, March 9th, 1965, Bloody Sunday. On March 10th, 1965, Reverend James Reeb, a white Unitarian minister, was shot, called Nigger Lover. I was born March 11th, 1965. On March 15th, 1965, Viola Luizzo, on the 25th, ushering African Americans back between Selma and Montgomery, was called Nigger Lover, and she too was killed. Our special guest in this hour is also going to be Al Green, who in that tradition is going to teach us about the resistance, why he stood before Donald Trump and said what he had to say about Medicare, about health care for the poor. But I'm particularly honored that in this hour, in this moment, Dr. Nee Quartai Quartale, Dr. Quartale Quartai is my guest. Dr. Nee, welcome back.
Hey, happy birthday, Jesse Jr.
Hey, Doc, thank you for being back with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being a terrific colleague. And, thank you for all that you have meant to our community and all that you continue to mean to this nation. These are troubled times. We are swimming in troubled waters, but we are better. We're better because we're swimming along with you on programs like this. And so happiest birthday, my friend.
I appreciate that, my brother. I want to focus some of our attention this afternoon on the right to vote. The 60th anniversary was commemorated. A number of members of Congress were there.
What? 1 second, Jesse
Yes.
Jackson Jr. I think somebody is beaming in. I think somebody's beaming in.
Oh, wow.
Is that Dr. Cornel West beaming in?
Lord, what a blessing to set eyes on both of you brothers. But 60 years old, young is a beautiful thing. Jesse Jackson Jr., we love you. I love you. I respect you. You got the finger of God all on you. You got prophetic fire shot through you, brother. And Jesse and Jackie and smiling on that baby boy 60 years ago that the Lord came into the world. And we so glad you in the world, man. I'll tell you that, right? Isn't that right too, my brother Quartet?
That's
Dr.
right.
West,
That's
thank
right.
you very much. I did not expect you. I'm sitting here with my mouth wide open saying, I don't control the guests. And Dr. West kind of beamed in from the Matrix. He beamed in from outer space and showed up. Dr. Cornel West, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, brother, you got loved ones who made connections with me and said if we could surprise our brother. And I told her, I said, you ain't lying.
Doc, well, I do have you and I do have Dr. Quartet. Let me just ask you very quickly. I'm getting some instructions over here from the producer. I did want to ask you about your thoughts about the context of the Voting Rights Act. If you could just stay with me for a couple of moments. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, this is my 60th birthday celebration, but we've got two very special guests, Dr. Nee Quarté and Dr. Cornel West.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's a classic odor tale. You fried fish for dinner, cleaned up, but the smell is still in the house. And the neighbors are coming over for game night. They're on their way. And then you spray Febreze Air Mist. Febreze Air starts working instantly to fight even your toughest odors, so you go from fish to fresh like that. Now, all you have to worry about is Pam cheating at charades.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Light a candle, pour some wine. Grab a roll, the soft kind for a little me time. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear. Wavy edges for my rear. So let the softness caress your soul. Just relax, you're on a roll. Let her rip. Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear.
Charmin Ultra Soft Smooth Tear has the same softness you love, now with wavy edges that tear better than the leading one-ply brand. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down. Get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, this is Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Doesn't look like I'm going to get a chance to ask anyone any questions. My very special guest is Dr. Nee Quarté. He is our White House correspondent, and now showing up, beaming in to the program is none other than the great Tavis Smiley. Tavis, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse Jackson Jr., happy 60th NATO Day. I was sitting listening to you engage my friends and brothers, Dr. Nee Quarté, and of course, the eminent professor, my dear big brother, Dr. Cornel West. Listen to you engaging them. But before they came on, I listened to you, and it was arresting to hear you situate your birth historically. And Dr. West and I had these conversations more times than I can count. And of course, as you know, I was honored to write that book about Dr. King's last year called Death of a King. And so when you situated your birth between the death of James Reeb, and by the way, people think that Dr. King only gave one speech in his life, right? I Have a Dream, only had one line in the speech. But his eulogy for James Reeb, to my mind, is one of the great oratories of his legacy. That eulogy for James Reeb, say nothing of the four little girls, but that the James Reeb eulogy always does something to me every time I read it. And so to hear you situate your birth between the murder of James Reeb and a day or so later, the murder of Viola Luiso, it was just arresting for me to just think about the tumult of the time in which you were born. We all know this phrase, we utter it all the time. For such a time as this, you were born, Jesse Jackson Jr., for such a time as this. And born in that space and time, and to witness all that you've done in these 60 years and all that you are going to do is a thing of beauty. And so I am delighted, along with Nicordelai and Dr. West, to have a front row seat to watch and to witness what God is going to do with you in the coming months and years. There's only one reason we are still here. It's because the good Lord has more for us to do. And I'm honored to be your partner and your friend and your brother. I celebrate this nationally syndicated radio program that you are hosting so brilliantly and so eloquently every day. I tune in to hear what you have to say on the issues of our time. But again, I'm just glad to have a front row seat. I got my popcorn, man. I want to see what God is going to do with you in the next few decades. And so happy birthday to you. I wouldn't be anyplace else but alongside my friends, wishing you the happiest of birthdays, sir.
I just want to say thank you. I just want to say that I'm overwhelmed by the men and the women, Tavis, that you have brought into this space, that I know that Mel Cooper has also brought into this space.
Yes,
Some of the best and some of the brightest and most thoughtful people in our country for such a time as this. And I am intimidated. I am a bit insecure in that I know that that you have been on the forefront of a great struggle, that Dr. West has been one of the most consistent people. Don Lemon, did you just come into my program?
It's Don Lemon.
Without knocking, I'm not knocking on no doors. Bum bum, as my grandma used to say, bum bum.
And the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Oh my God, this is trouble. Y'all trying to get us all arrested by the dope. There's too many Negroes in one chat on one radio show. Happy birthday, Jesse Jr. And thank you for communicating and keeping me strong and giving me encouragement. I hope I do the same to you. And I don't want to take the spotlight away from you and from the Reverend and Tavis and everybody here, Dr. Nye and Cornell West, all people I just really admired. And I'm just honored to be here with you. But happy birthday to you. My birthday was March 1st. So this Pisces season, so look out.
Don Lemon is our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show tomorrow. We have a full hour with Don. I was trying to figure out what the appropriate subject would be for Don tomorrow, but I've just decided it's the state of the world.
There's no news going on, by the way, Jesse. So yeah, and what on earth will we talk about?
It's the state of the world. Whatever you want to say, Don. You've been on the front lines of it. Uncle Al, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr.
Well, I just wanted to call in and wish you a happy birthday. I've known you just about all of those years, and your growth, your development, and your prophetic voice, as well as the tangible things you did when you remember Congress, should not go unnoticed. So I just want to wish you a happy birthday. You have a Hall of Fame list of people there, from Dr. West and Cornell and Doc and Don Lemon. So I'm getting ready for Hazel Duke's funeral in the morning. I've got to do a little meeting on that, but I wanted to wish you a happy birthday. We've been family and will always be family.
Thank you so much, Uncle Al, and you are in our prayers. I don't know anyone who's out here in these streets and in these suites more than Al Sharpton on behalf of all of us. Thank you, Al, for the service that you're in.
Thank you.
All of our people.
Hey, Rev, get in touch with me. I'm supposed to do a thing with you guys, a panel. And
yeah, you're supposed to be at my convention. Yeah, I'll call you. I don't know.
You're doing business over the thing on the birthday.
Uncle Al, before you can share us a little bit about your convention, please.
It's April the 2nd through the 5th here in New York, and we're going to be really planning what we're going to deal with in terms of this DEI, in terms of what a prolonged national boycott could be. Stevie Wonder told me last night, he was here for the funeral for Roberta Flack, and he is going to be there. He was saying we ought to talk about a year boycott. He said, I don't like that one day stuff. So we're going to really get into the nuts and bolts of that. A lot of people coming from all different organizations.
Uncle Al, is there a number where everyone can call who wants to register for your convention?
Yeah, and the registration in my convention is free. So all they got to do is they can go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net or call 1-877-626-4651.
Thank you, Uncle Al. God bless you,
All
and
right.
thanks for your
Bless
service.
you.
Thanks, Brad.
Have a
Take
great
care.
birthday.
Good to
No,
see you.
indeed,
Good to see
indeed.
all of y'all.
Whole
Good to
lot of
see all
love here. Whole
Lot
lot
of
of
love
love
back,
here.
Dr. West. Love you too. Love you, Tavis.
Hey guys, I
Love
love
you,
all of
Reverend.
you.
Love
I
you,
got a
love.
5 o'clock. I got
Stay
a 5 o'clock
strong.
live show I need to get to. Okay, so
Thanks, Don.
Yeah,
I'll
no, I've got
continue
to
this
run too.
podcast with you tomorrow on the show when we're live. Okay, Rev.
I look
Look at
forward to
old
it, Don.
Definitely.
Thank you
Brad.
very much.
She just Boomer just closed his computer, didn't log nothing. I mean,
I
I hope he doesn't
got
pull a
to
Shannon
run.
Sharp on us. I'm just saying.
Love y'all. Love you. Love you. I might have to run here though.
All
Thank you,
right.
Love you,
Dr. West.
Jesse.
Thank you, Don.
Indeed,
Bye, guys.
indeed.
Love
Love
you
you.
guys.
Love you, brother
Okay.
Travis. Love you, brother
See ya.
Forte.
Bye-bye.
Brother
God
See
bless
you
you.
later. I'll
Care.
see you on the
Good to see you.
show.
Good to
Bye-bye.
see you.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday, brother.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Corte, I know you're not leaving me.
Of course not. Of course not. Of course not.
Thank you for that. I wasn't quite expecting that, and I know my executive producer Gina Towns. Nothing gets by her, so I want to thank her very much for making that moment very special. If that got by anybody, I would have probably just bugged out. But thank you, Gina. I'm so grateful for that. Dr. Corte. In a few moments, in the remaining of this program, I will have Al Green, Congressman Al Green, who at this hour in the nation's thinking made a valiant protest. His seat in Congress is tied to the right to vote. So many progressive African Americans are tied, their seats to Congress are tied to what happened on this day and during this period in Selma in 1965. Share with us your reflections.
Well, my goodness. I mean, we've talked so much about meeting the moment, right? And we started this hour with you offering us the context of what was happening in this country, of the work and witness of your family, and the sort of situation and circumstances that you were born into. That's not divorce from some of the same situation and circumstances that we find ourselves in as a nation. And it's the moral clarity for me. It's the moral clarity for so many of our learners and listeners. It's the moral clarity for so many of our fellow Americans when Representative Al Green stood up during the joint address to Congress, when President Trump had proclaimed that he had a mandate to move forward his agenda, which includes a lot of very harsh budget cuts that our communities are going to feel, principally when it comes to programs like Medicaid, for example. And so for Representative Green to stand up and to hold up his cane almost as if he was Moses holding up his staff, proclaiming you have no mandate. That was a moment. That was the thing that sparks movements, that has sparked movements in the history of this country. And so it is yet to be seen, not just what Democrats will make of that moment, but what movement leaders are going to do with that moment of moral clarity, that rare moment of moral clarity that so many of us have been hungry to see. And so, really looking forward to listening as to what's next when it comes to Representative Green's very courageous effort to offer this nation, to send a signal to the world that there are folks that are clear-eyed about what they're up against and clear-eyed about what's worth fighting for.
I find it absolutely fascinating that in this moment in time, while many have argued that it looks like we're going back to the 1920s and the 1930s, we find in Al Green this Rosa Parks moment. We find in Al Green this Fannie Lou Hamer speaking to the Democrats at the convention moment. We find a clarity that is emerging, albeit one could argue on the resistance side of elected leaders, it's coming very slowly. But Al Green thrusts himself into this dialogue in a way that puts us in a position where we cannot ignore it. Your thoughts on the censure vote and the 10 Democrats who did not stick with the movement strategy?
Well, I think those 10 Democrats are going to have some explaining to do when they get back to their districts. I think there are going to be a lot of eyes on the movement of those 10 Democrats between now and the midterms. You were a member of Congress for 17 years. You're very clear-eyed in terms of what signal that sends to any potential administration about a willingness to play ball. And I think it is yet to be determined, are there, particular issues where they're willing to play ball with the Trump administration? Where are there pet projects that they have in their districts? Are there issues that are of personal significance to them where they are willing to vote with the Republicans? It is yet to be seen what those issues may ultimately be. But the fact that these 10 Democrats joined in a censure vote for Representative Al Green, a lot of folks see that as a demonstration of a lack of moral clarity. Think about it. There's so many people across this country and around the world that are responding to that moment, that image of Representative Al Green sort of standing up to President Trump, not on a policy difference, right? But a difference in terms of his interpretation of the 2024 election. This is a president that is operating as if he has a mandate that Representative Green says you don't have, that so many of our fellow Americans say that you don't have. Those 10 Democrats in their vote to censure Representative Green suggests that perhaps President Trump does have a mandate, and that is not good. That sends a message to Democrats. It sends a message to the world. It sends a message to our allies that is at odds with what Democrats have been talking about, since the 2024 election and before, right? And so, I think it is safe to say that there are Democrats that are experiencing a bit of an identity crisis. Who are you? Who are you? And who are you when it comes time to vote versus who are you, when there's time between votes? Who are you outside of the Capitol when you're in your district? And who are you when you're in Washington, D.C.? Are you who you say you are? This is going to be the recurring question that our fellow Americans will ask of Democrats between now and the midterms. And if they don't have a good answer, I think we're going to see more of the same. Republicans in power strengthening their grip.
Dr. Corte, share with us from your reflections the difficulty of being Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader at this hour.
You and I talked a little bit about this, and there's a difference between being a political leader and being a movement leader. And I think Hakeem Jeffries understands how Washington, D.C. works. He understands how the House of Representatives work. I think there's reason to believe that maybe he's a bit too preoccupied about doing all of the things in order to win another 3 or 4 seats in order to take control of the House of Representatives. I think he's paying a bit more attention to counting those votes as opposed to the thing that's on the mind of so many of our fellow Americans, the next pay period.
The price of eggs.
Right. And so I think it's the movement leaders whose job is to call attention to those issues that are on people's mind, but paycheck to paycheck. And I think Representative Jeffries could learn a lot from them, but make no mistake about it. He's no movement leader. He's a political leader, but he's got to figure out how he's going to work with movement leaders in order to fill this leadership vacuum that exists on the left.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Dr. Cortelai Corte. Dr. Corte has been the White House correspondent and is the White House correspondent, all things Washington, D.C., for African Americans, for KBLA, for our network, and for our show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Department of Education staff were told to vacate offices by Tuesday evening due to security reasons. Buildings will be closed Wednesday and reopen Thursday. This comes amid reports President Trump may dissolve the department. The University of Alaska Southeast is removing DEI terms from its site to comply with executive orders. Despite this, the chancellor says the school remains committed to inclusivity. Over 150 terms are under review to protect federal funding. Professional football star Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drewski are named in a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, accused in a 2018 assault case. Both deny the claims. This adds to over 100 lawsuits against Diddy, who faces racketeering and sex trafficking charges. And Prince George's County Fire and EMS is donating 40 sets of gear to firefighters in Africa. The idea came after a meeting with a county leader and Liberia's vice president. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
4 days ago, the Lakers were the talk of the NBA with an 8-game winning streak and projections as a legitimate contender for the Western Conference title. The Lakers have lost 2 in a row after losing at Brooklyn Monday night, 111-108. Injuries are becoming a major issue. The Lakers did not have 4 players who have started games this season, including LeBron, who is out for 2 weeks with a groin injury. Injuries to Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura, and Dorian Finney-Smith are showing how vulnerable the Lakers can be if they're not healthy. The Clippers are in New Orleans tonight to start a 3-game trip. The Clippers are going for their 4th straight win. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts has a new contract. The Dodgers gave the 52-year-old Roberts a 4-year extension worth $32.4 million. Roberts and the Angels' Ron Washington are the only 2 black managers in Major League Baseball. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, though.
We've got a lot to talk about.
On January 7th, 2025, the Eaton Canyon Fire scorched Altadena, torching everything in its path. Homes, wealth, and legacy burned in one night. But will Altadena rise from the ashes? I'm James Farr. On the Conversation Live Altadena Rising, we're chronicling the recovery, the resilience, and justice for the nation. This is the show of record, unapologetically progressive. We're not blacking down. So join me, James Farr, on the Conversation Live Altadena Rising every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific with the rebroadcast on Sunday at noon.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, my 60th birthday celebration. My very special guest is Dr. Nee Quartey. Dr. Quartey is our White House, Capitol Hill, and Supreme Court correspondent. Dr. Quartey, welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It is always a pleasure to be with you. Happiest birthday.
I'm particularly honored that you're here because our very special guest for the next 20 or 30 minutes or so is none other than the distinguished gentleman from Texas, Congressman Al Green. I called Congressman Green a couple of days ago to tell him how proud I was of him for the courage that he demonstrated on the floor of the Congress. I had no idea that it would result 2 days later in a censure vote. After all, Al and I were in Congress together when Joe Wilson sat there and called Barack Obama a liar, and I just knew wasn't nothing going to happen to Al for just raising questions about Medicaid. And while I want to spend a lot of time going through his extraordinary resume and credentials of public service and progressive activism, with the time that we have for a man who is enormously busy, he said, Jesse, there's no way I'm not doing your show. So I'm honored that Congressman Al Green is our very special guest. Congressman Green, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, it's an honor to be on the program with you. And thank you, Doctor, for being with us as well. And I'd like to start with happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
to you.
Appreciate that.
Happy birthday, dear.
Happy birthday to you. If you don't tell them which Al Green, they'll never know.
Well, now we definitely do. Thanks, Congressman. Congressman, let's cut to the chase. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I want to start by first sharing with you on behalf of millions of Americans who saw a Democrat stand up and fight back and push back and not just roll over. So on behalf of millions of us, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being so kind.
I've asked Dr. Quartey to be with us this afternoon. I didn't realize that this was turning into a larger birthday celebration because I'd like to think that I'm becoming a serious journalist. But Dr. Quartey obviously covers Capitol Hill on behalf of all of us, and I wanted him to be part of this very important conversation. Congressman Green, when you entered the House chamber, tell us about your thoughts, the sum of everything that the election had represented and what it meant to be standing and then sitting and then standing again in front of Donald Trump.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And you are more than a serious journalist. You are a person who has lived a lot of what we'll talk about. And I appreciate so much your time here in Congress. But to answer your question, I have to share this with you. Before deciding to go over, I took a poll of my staff. We discussed things like this. And we took a vote. And the vote was split. And so the decision was mine as to whether I would go or not, because I was contemplating simply not going. But I decided that I would go, and I would go for the purpose of leaving. I wasn't going to stay for the entirety of the show, as it were, of the joint session. I was going to leave, and that would be my means of protesting. And when I was there in the chamber itself, I'm always in awe of just being there, because quite frankly, no one could have prognosticated that at my birth that I would be there. And I sometimes still have difficulty assuming it myself, given all of the things that have happened to us in this country. But while I was there in my seat, I was being patient and waiting for my time to simply leave. I collected my portable goods. I had my coat and my cane in hand, and the president went into his commentary about being empowered by virtue of a mandate. And that triggered something in me, to be very honest. I did not go to say what I said. I went to protest by simply walking out while he was speaking. But it triggered something in me about healthcare. And so I stood and I said, you don't have a mandate to cut Medicaid. 9 words. You don't have a mandate to cut Medicaid. Well, the response was such that from the other side was such that I could not allow them to simply boo that into oblivion. So I decided I would respond again when they were calm and let people hear that I was saying this. And I spoke about Social Security and Medicare as well. And so the speaker eventually decided that I should be removed. The people came over, the officers, and they escorted me out. By the way, they were very kind to me and said some very kind things on the way out. But this became a seminal moment for me personally, only because I know what Medicaid does for people in my state. Texas was accorded $100 billion to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. And Texas rejected $100 billion. I didn't want for people to believe this, but it's true, because eventually Texas would have to pay 10% of this, and the government, which your tax dollars belong to the people, would then afford Texas 90%. But Texas is a tough state when it comes to health care. We have more uninsured people than any other state. Our children are twice as likely to be uninsured than the national average. So I'm fighting to protect people who are not there to protect themselves. It wasn't something that was done before I left, but when I did it with intentionality. So I'm not backing away from what I did. I'm not going to apologize for what I did. I'm going to say, I wish I lived in a world where that wasn't necessary, but I have to be candid. I would do it again if the circumstances remain the same.
Dr. Corte?
Representative Green, we've certainly been talking about this today. The streets are talking about how that moment where you sort of stood up to President Trump really represents a moral clarity that so many folks are wanting to see more of, particularly among Democrats. What's your message to the folks, the Democrats who voted to censure you along with the Republicans? And what's your message to red state Democrats like yourself across the country?
Well, thank you. I told my colleagues who were making inquiries before we took the vote to censure me, I said, vote your conscience. Do what you feel convicted to do. I never tried to cause people to vote one way or another. And I have said that when you do this kind of thing, John Lewis, who was there with Jesse, and we talked about these things. He called to our attention that if you peacefully protest, you have to get in the way. That's his terminology, get in the way. And then when you get in the way, you have to be prepared to suffer consequences. So I was prepared. I was prepared over the years for that moment. This moment didn't just blossom. It's something that grew. And I knew how to behave and what to expect. So I told my colleagues, just vote your convictions, vote your conscience. Now, in terms of this whole question of what do you do for red state folk, this is a question of whether you, how you perceive yourself. I leave it to each person. But I think that there are some things that we have the conscience to record for us a notion that there's a moral imperative to move. And if you have the conscience that says this is a moral imperative, then the question becomes a tough question for a good many people. I understand it. And that is, do you have the courage to do what conscience has proclaimed a moral imperative? Each person has to deal with that. But I say this, when Jesse Jackson Sr. and Dr. King were parading, were moving across the country and engaging in protests, there were other people who knew that these things, these conditions existed. There were other people who were articulate spokespersons. There were other intellectuals, but Dr. King and Reverend Jackson had one additional thing that many didn't, and that was courage. And it takes courage to implement the moral imperative that the conscience can dictate.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, I hope and pray Congressman Green can spend a few more minutes with us. But if he can't, Congressman, I'm so grateful that you've spent this time with us. Dr. Corte, I hope you'll stay with us. And Al, if you can hang around for a few more minutes, I do have a few more questions.
I will.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm really excited about that. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Coming forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Fatherhood includes being present during pregnancy and beyond, supporting your partner, advocating for your baby, and ensuring a healthy birth. Black fathers play a key role in reducing maternal and infant health disparities, and your involvement starts during pregnancy. Join the free AIM Fatherhood program today and learn how to support your partner, advocate for your baby's health, and connect with other fathers committed to healthier births. Visit blackinfantsandfamilies.org/fatherhood to get started.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. The Live Your Life organization mentors young women, helping them break negative mindsets and see beyond their surroundings. Through career exposure and hands-on training, they're encouraged to think big, stay focused, and make positive choices. Founded by Nikisha Mama Boo Smith, who transformed her life to become a community leader. Live Your Life is changing lives, but they need your help. They're raising funds to keep their new building open and expand their programs. Your donations will support food, clothes, hygiene products, and holiday giveaways. Visit liveyourlife32.com. That's LIVEYOLIFE32.com to help today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
After you use Bounce Dryer sheets and realize how fresh, soft, less wrinkled, and less staticky your laundry can be, you'll put a sheet on it every time. Like those socks that smell like they've been through a marathon. Or that blanket that's got wrinkles on its wrinkles. Maybe even your chatty coworker who keeps distracting you. Okay, Bounce Dryer sheets can't do it all. But for fresher, softer, better laundry, put a sheet on it with Bounce.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr., welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is none other than one of the most courageous people in the Congress of the United States, Congressman Al Green. And joining me in the questioning is Dr. Nee Orte, who is our White House correspondent, our Capitol Hill correspondent, our Supreme Court correspondent, and all things Washington. Congressman, let me just raise this question and then give the final or so question to Dr. Corte. I've been inside and I've been out. I used to sit there with you, Sheila Jackson Lee and Elijah Cummings, and we know what the courage represented by that moment represents for all of us, especially for you. Let me share with you what I think I saw from the outside, having sat next to you at these events. We saw the truth stand up. We saw the fire welled up in your bones about Medicaid. 2 days later, we saw 10 Democrats censure the truth, that there's a problem with truth, that there's no room for the open voices of what that moral courage represents in the Congress of the United States, and it suggests a fracture within the Democratic Party. Congressman, would you care to comment on that?
I didn't hear the entirety of the question. I'm sorry. Could you repeat it?
The question again is, when you stood up, we saw the truth stand up. Truth. Forever on the scaffold, wrong forever
on the throne. Yeah.
We saw the truth stand up. 2 days later, we saw the truth get censured by Democrats. And we're conflicted because we think that those 10 Democrats should have stood with you and that their conscience should have identified you as the truth in that moment, defending the health care of the poor. Your thoughts, Congressman?
Well, I think you're being very kind to me, and I do appreciate it. I came from the segregated South. The rights enshrined in the Constitution for me were denied by my friends and neighbors. So I grew up with discrimination, and I've been prepared all my life to deal with that moment in time. It wasn't something that just happened. I had the Klan to burn a cross in my yard. I had to sit in the back of the bus, the balcony of the movie. I had uncles who committed some offenses and they were locked up in the bottom of the jail. So I grew up with invidious discrimination. I went to segregated school. And as a result, when I had this moment, all of that became a part of the response. It wasn't just something that I did because I saw the injustice at that moment. This is injustice that I have recognized in Congress since I arrived. There is invidious discrimination in the Congress. So now, not everybody's had my experience. And because they haven't had it, I can't expect them to do the things that I do. I would hope that we would all give serious consideration to these injustices, but I do know that there's more than one way to get to Houston from Washington, D.C. I take a plane, someone else might take a train, another person might take a car. We all have the same destination in mind. It's just that the vehicle might be different. I believe in peaceful protest. I believe in it. It is a form of incivility that is positive. The president uses a negative incivility to demean people. It's a terrible thing that he does. But we can uplift people. He tries to put people down. And I will just say this in closing. He called the members of Congress lunatics. That very night on national TV, he did it with impunity. I was sanctioned. I know that there's a double standard. I'm not saying I accept it. I'm saying I know how to deal with it because I've lived it.
Dr. Corte, let me give you this question, and then at the conclusion of Congressman Green's answer, Congressman Green, if you could conclude this hour with a word of hope. Dr. Corte.
Sure. I mean, one of the questions that was on my mind was around the idea of peaceful protest. And we know that during the 2024 election cycle, that Vice President Harris, the Democratic nominee, made very clear in the final days of the campaign that if she were elected, she'd be walking into the White House with a to-do list, whereas if Trump was elected, he'd be walking in with an enemies list. My question for Representative Green, was around any sort of blowback that he has received from folks on the other side of the aisle. We've seen an administration, we've seen a party that is willing to be petty, that is made retribution okay. Have there been any signs or any signal that you may be on some sort of enemies list?
Well, I don't know whether this has been published widely, but there is a movement afoot to remove me from my committee. That is emanating from the president himself. The president has taken a great amount of this personally because he does not like to have someone stand up to it. Standing up to him is one of the best ways for him to now demean you. He calls people who stand up persons with low IQs. So he's called me a person with a low IQ, as he did with a good many other people. But my point is simply this, that yes, there is retribution and I may lose my assignments. But if Dr. King could go to jail in Birmingham, if Rosa Parks could go to jail for sitting on the front seat of the bus, I can suffer these things. They're minor compared to some other things others have suffered.
Representative Green, speaking of folks who have experienced a lot of challenge, who've had to overcome a lot. Before we go, I want to invite Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is here with us. He's got a special word for his son. Reverend Jackson.
Yes.
Reverend Jackson's been standing by.
Go and get that picture over there, the one at the end.
Actually.
I'm getting a picture, Reverend. I just want to show you.
Reverend Jackson is joining us audio only right now. Reverend Jackson.
See this.
Dad, I'm listening. One second, Congressman Green. Dad has audibility problems, so we all have to listen to him carefully. Go ahead, Dad.
Yes, please.
This 6 years ago, there was a bridge in Selma, Alabama, and I heard that Jesse Jr. had been born. He didn't have no cell phone at the time. I have Birmingham, but validated. Almost named him Selma. It was a big moment. So I want to thank you for bringing, setting up, and just thank you for your years of service, U.S. Congress, and I wish I could sing to you, but I can't.
I appreciate that, Daddy. Congressman Green, I heard Dad say thank you for your service. Thank you for standing up for us. Dad said to me he wishes he could sing for me, but he can't. Dad, I want you to know that Congressman Green on our screen is holding up a picture of you and him. I don't see who's in the middle.
Maxine Waters.
And Maxine Waters, and he keeps it next to his desk at all times. This is a particularly honored, Reverend Dr. Corte. I don't know how you managed to get my dad to slide into the show.
I may just say this. I'm so
Please,
honored.
Congressman.
It's just an honor to hear him. And you mentioned ending on a high note, a note of hope. This is the purveyor of Keep Hope Alive. This man, he inspired many Al Greens across this country. We wanted to be like him. It wasn't enough just to see him. We wanted to be like him. He was the person that kept hope alive for us and inspired us to do some of the things that we're doing. So, Reverend, I'm honored that you came on, and I promise to continue what you brought to life for me.
Dad, thank you. Thank you for 60 years ago for choosing me. Congressman Al Green, thank you for your courage. Dr. Corte, I can't thank you enough for your scholarship and for your courage. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and you're listening to The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Department of Education staff were told to vacate offices by Tuesday evening due to security reasons. Buildings will be closed Wednesday and reopened Thursday. This comes amid reports President Trump may dissolve the department. The University of Alaska Southeast is removing DEI terms from its site to comply with executive orders. Despite this, the chancellor says the school remains committed to inclusivity. Over 150 terms are under review to protect federal funding. Professional football star Odell Beckham Jr. and comedian Drewski are named in a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, accused in a 2018 assault case. Both deny the claims. This adds to over 100 lawsuits against Diddy, who faces racketeering and sex trafficking charges. And Prince George's County Fire and EMS is donating 40 sets of gear to firefighters in Africa. The idea came after a meeting with a county leader and Liberia's vice president. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Farm Safe 811 starts with you. Always call 811 and wait for any underground line.